Right. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the name of the yes.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting November 8th?
So moved. Second.
Motion by member Castillo, second by Vice President Garay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Number 2, Superintendent's report. Mike?
So we have several reports that we want to do for today. And, when I was on the PEC, the Public Education Commission, when I decided not to be part of that commission any longer, one of the questions that I always asked myself was, did I make a difference? And so I don't know if our 3 board members that are, heading out after this meeting, if you guys have the same type of questions, but for me, it was really important to make sure that that you all left here with your last meeting knowing the state of the district. And so some of the concerns that we've had coming up into this and that sort of thing. And so we're hoping that we're going to give a good picture of where we stand as a district. Okay, and so one of the things that we've been talking about for a while now is the ESSER cliff. We knew that we got this infusion of money, federal funds, to do some things that we've never been able to do before, just because we simply couldn't afford them. And but we knew that the cliff was coming. And so we've been very, very intentional about that to make sure that, yes, we have spent a lot of money. We've used our ESSER funds to the fullest extent that we could, but we've also planned for this year, knowing that the ESSER cliff was coming. So with that, I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Sheila Offit, who is going to give us just a breakdown of where we stand with the budget.
Hey, good evening. Last month, we started presenting a fiscal budget recap from iVisions. So this is in your book under superintendent's report. And this is where we stand. We have our current expenditures, our activity. That's what has already been paid. Encumbrances are the current POs in place pending our purchase requisitions that have not yet been encumbered. The purchase recs are not approved yet, so it sits in pending. And then the budget available. If you look down, the turquoise is current year expenditures to date, so per month, and then the purple was last year. So just comparing last year against this year, we do know we have this big construction project going on. And so the dip in October and then a higher increase in November is due to a construction invoice coming in for September in November. So they did not invoice us at all in October. It was just, we received it after the 1st. So it was not paid in October. Otherwise, those 3 months would have been relatively the same. That's that change. So you can see at the top, our pie chart on the budget that's used, which includes encumbered and already expended funds, and then the budget available.
Our budget right now is $12 million.
That's what's available. Our budget is about $40 million.
Wow, it's really good.
So we are about
We did good.
2/3 of our budget. Of course, our salaries are encumbered all the way through the end of the year.
Right.
So that's already accounted for.
That's great.
So the next page is a lot of letters and numbers. And so if you can go ahead and scroll to the next one. Oh, so that's what we were just showing you. So this, I don't know if you could zoom out to show the full page and then we can zoom back in. We wanted to, over time, just kind of look at what funds have come into the district, what funds are no longer applicable to the district. And this shows, if you look to the right, just the number of additional funding sources that have come in. So bringing Olivia on as a social worker, she's been able to work with migrant. When Mike came in, he started the migrant. We brought Lalo in, you remember that, and then Olivia's continued that. She's applying currently for McKinney-Vento. That will be additional on here. Some funds have gone away. There are some state allocations that, the legislative session will approve specific funds. And so what you see right now is really federal, operational, transportation, teacherage, instructional materials. And then where it says new fund for ad valorem taxes, that was always budgeted and operational previously. So last year was the first year that they actually created a separate account code for that. And that is the money that we have used to give our teachers their bare bucks. So each teacher gets the $150 to get something that they need for their classroom. For them, not instructional materials, but a chair or filing cabinets or whatever they're needing to help them be more productive in their space.
It was a 6-year look back. You got 7 years.
Yes.
You're where you.
Yes.
That's interesting how the funds have shifted.
Yes. And so, Title I we've had that all along, a lot of our titles, but the funding in each one overall, some of those are going down over time because of federal decisions and the way they are looking at the data, the way they are coding our students as Title I. A lot of the money for at risk is associated with tax returns and of course our citizens. So we'll only file the tax returns. And then a lot of border towns have dealt with those kinds of issues. So those students aren't even counted if their parents didn't file a tax return or if they do not have SNAP and Medicaid. So they would not be counted.
It's a formula that nobody can explain to us.
Right.
And so we're kind of at their mercy, but we have been told that these are the factors that they consider.
Title I redesign, of course, that was based on Title I. And since we did not have testing during COVID, that money went away. They just would not reissue it to us. So the turquoise throughout this is COVID related funds. So we did receive a substantial amount, but the current budget is only about $3 million. And some of that was projected carryover that 159,000 there was for ESSER 2 that expired in September. And if you remember, we reported that there was $10 left. So that's where we landed on that. It got completely spent down. And I only had about 24,000 roll into the new year in OBMS, but this was projected. And so we will have a decrease bar later to true that up. But the balance in the account, when all was said and done, was $10. Nice.
This is ridiculous. I deal with budgets for 2 large companies, but it's funding sources are 3 or 4. So this is just ridiculous. The number of lines of different revenue sources that come into the school that can be used for this or that, but not these things. It's that.
A lot of work.
There's a lot of limitations, and what we can do, what we can't do. And so we have to follow the statute.
Well, speaking to that, operational here includes cash balance, SEG, their ad valorem previously had been in that, and there are some other items that are going into that. So we have interest on our accounts. That's an income that we have to account for. There's just a lot of other factors in addition to that. And, teacherage, of course, is rent on our 2 teacherages and our farm. But one of those is vacant right now, and we have some repair work to do in there and some updating. So we will see some expenditures on teacherage that we really haven't seen before. We ordered a new stove for Arturo today, and we should get it in before Christmas break. So they really need to have a working stove, right? So we will see some expenditures in the future with some repairs. So it's been already approved. They're working on it, trying to get that done for them before we have leaks, as we've already discussed previously. So scrolling down, we did see an increase in our medical billing, and I know Ramona is here, so that is a tribute to you and your work that you did in the SPED department. And so
So from 100,000 to 480 to 539, 2 years.
So we did have some carryover that may not have been budgeted because we were budgeting only the projected income. And as PED is trying to get on top of truing up cash balances and accounting for that in OBMS, this is where we're sitting. So we are covering social workers out of our Medicaid funds and a special education EA, and then our nursing staff, 100% of our health assistants and half of Nurse Carla is out of Medicaid. Again, as we go down, the REC district fiscal agent, Ed Fellows, most of that is Ed Fellows. Sometimes PED will push out monies and they'll say, well, the REC is going to manage that for you. And so it all gets lumped in, and then it's Shelley and I's job to try to distinguish within iVisions which account, what we could use it for. So it's extra work on us when they do that, but that's where it gets budgeted. And Ed Fellows, as of today, it does sunset this summer. So
This is really good news. And then what we saw on the oil and tax revenue that we discussed yesterday, Mike, I'm sorry. I should jump on. The budget situation looks like it's really shored up from what we were talking about 6 months ago. So there were some articles the last couple mornings about number one, New Mexico is now number 2 in oil production in the country. The number 2 state. I had no idea New Mexico was doing that well. But the good news for the new board coming in and everything, the budget should not be an issue where you're having to cut back or everything. You'll be in a good position. We got on, and then we had the financial crisis thing where the state cut back everything 20%. And that's really tough. So the good news is for the next few years, it looks good. So don't buy an electric car. Keep those oil pumps going.
And so a lot of this portion of the spreadsheet, the 2.7 accounts again are those state funds that sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. There was the new CTE monies that came through, Innovation Zone, bilingual. We just received that this year because they approved that last session. So that kind of fluctuates based on the state.
So is this what they refer to as below the line funding, a lot of those things?
Some of it is below
Yeah.
the line. Some of it's, of course, the SEG is all above.
Right.
So.
But these are
the
special.
below the line, yeah, it's the ones that you have to apply separately.
Right.
Yes. You keep scrolling down. So below the turquoise line, most of that is capital projects. So that private direct grant, the 32,000, that was actually, most of that is the funds from Casa de Peregrinos to do the initial work on the building. And the rest of that is the allocation for Casa de Peregrinos, the bond, and that includes the bond we will be receiving because that's revenue in the year. So it's budgeted in the beginning of the year of what we will receive during the year. So we do not currently have that in the bank. We have last year's bond remaining, and that we will receive in May. We will be seeing that soon at the board meetings. They've already sent out the agenda and timelines for the next bond sale. The 100,000 there was the work that we're going to be doing that we did to move our freight farm in. So the concrete work, all the ground prep, and a portion of the freight farm was in that $100,000 capital, a special allocation. Do you want to mention?
So as you remember, if you go tomorrow, okay, you'll hear the bigger story tomorrow at 10 o'clock. But remember, we had this vision as part of the Bear Initiative. I don't know if Kim's here. I don't think she's here. But, it's part of a bigger plan with the improvements to our ag education program. And but COVID, is just like, we were all experienced, COVID made the prices go up. And so we found ourselves, even though we got that Kellogg grant that you see here, initially we thought we could cover all the expenses with that, and we could, but then COVID hit and prices skyrocketed, right? And so we found ourselves not being able to see it through. So we went to the legislature last year and asked for this special allocation of $100,000 so that we could complete it. So that's where we're at right now. We'll have the ribbon cutting tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
So we have all the funding for that? This
It's-
complete?
And that's
Paid.
by the ag
done,
building.
yeah.
Behind the ag building.
Okay.
Yeah, by the solar
Mhm.
field right
Okay,
now.
that's what I have. High school ag solar panels. So
Good.
And we have our two SB9, and again, we thank the community for approving our SB9 recently. And so we should see an increase to both of those funds as we move throughout this year because they wait for the election before they give us our allocation for the year. So I expect an
now
increase.
that's still substantially down, I would imagine, because of the loss of Las Uvas Dairy or
Yeah, we've had a decrease, yes.
Yeah.
because of the taxable base.
And well, also, if you see 31700 SB9, that got moved down. So the year that we have 1.6 or it was 06, you had 2 years combined. So the 771 and the 240 got added into one code. So PED changed their number. And so it was kind of a transition year of doing that. And then, of course, debt service. So the bottom under the turquoise line essentially is capital. And so there's a summary page for you, the next page. I might have zoomed out. And again, over time, FY 18, we were at 19 million, at 19 in FY 19 and 21 in FY 20, but currently we're at $39.9 million. And as I said, there was some capital or some budget carryover that was expected that we spent last year that shouldn't have been budgeted this year. So PED allowed us to budget it this year because we had all the chairs for that building. We had the equipment at the high school and middle school being installed, and they told us it wasn't going to come in. And so PED said, you can budget it. And then on June 30th, it all showed up. So
So we paid for it out of last year.
we paid for it on June 30. So we will have a decrease in that amount, but I've already received several allocations since then that brings it back up to that. So we're pretty much balanced. Again, our COVID funds this year are only about 3 million. And so that still leaves us with $36 million. Oh, can you go back
So you
up to
can
that?
see, you
I
can
don't
see
know if
from
that
FY
is-
18 to
Okay.
FY 24,
Right.
we pretty much have doubled our
It's
budget.
doubled.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think Sheila and you and Ms. Marquez, you guys have done awesome. I mean, it's a lot of work and to where we were at, to where we're at now. It's great. I really appreciate your hard work on this.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
When you're in budget trouble, you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach when you have a superintendent walk in and say, if we don't get that check next week, they're not going
Yeah.
to make payroll. That's a scary,
And that's a problem.
Greg and I have been there.
Yeah.
We know how that is.
that's a really scary feeling. I appreciate we've not been in that situation the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Like I said, we've been very intentional about,
Yeah.
and it's a combination of things. It's a combination of seeking state funds, seeking federal funds, but also taking advantage of what we're able to take advantage of within the SEG and the 910B5. So like, for example, just changing our bilingual program generated a whole lot more units. And so more units means more money coming into the
Yeah,
district.
absolutely.
So it's just a combination of just different things, utilizing our federal funds to braid our federal funds, because we don't get a lot of federal funds from just one allocate, with the exception of Title I. But we have to braid, and use different funding sources to make sure things happen. So it's really stretching our dollars to make them go further.
So we haven't been in any trouble since, what is it, 18 that I see? We've been doing good, really. We've never been in trouble in any way. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Okay, any questions on this? Okay. Oh, one more thing, the activities and other sources. So before FY 21, it was not required to budget activity accounts in OBMS.
Right.
So that's that increase. So we had the money in the bank, it just was not in OBMS.
Mhm.
Now the charts, I know you like charts, picture graphs. So, this is just the total budget over the years.
That's a chart that makes sense to everybody, Sheila. We understand that one. That's the total, everything on there.
There you go. Total budget. The next page is operational only, which also includes cash balance. Oh, yeah. So this one's operational. And then you can go ahead and go up. This is an interesting one. I pulled the cash balance that rolled into the new year since FY18 so that you could see our cash balance. The blue line is our operational cash balance and the orange is the total cash balance. And so you can see that it took a dip at the end of last year. That's because we had all those outstanding RFRs on June 30th. And by September 30th, we had been paid for every single RFR outstanding from prior fiscal years.
That's the where you're spending it and then getting a reimbursement through the
Yeah.
federal government.
Yeah, I believe we had about $4 million
What
outstanding
does
at
that
the end of
stand
the
for,
year.
Sheila? RFR,
Oh,
Request for-
request for reimbursement.
request for reimbursement.
Yes, and we also installed the lights at the softball, baseball complex. So that spent some of the capital funds that we had that would have been expiring. So when we receive our bonds, we have 3 years to spend down our bonds. And so had been kind of saving them to do the project and then we spent it all. So then our cash balance, of course, dipped a little.
Those lights do look weird when you're coming into town. Like tonight they were on and I was like, are they on or are they just kind of on or?
They're very
but it's-
directional.
But it's
Right.
bright when you're on the field. Yeah.
They're meant to not have light pollution.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
yeah, so that's why everything's directional. Yeah, you won't see the light go up.
Right.
What about the scoreboards? Where do those come?
They're installed.
Mhm.
They should be turned over
On, you
to
can
us
see
on Monday.
But where did the monies
Or
come?
like
The monies, where do we get the monies for that?
operation.
Okay.
Yeah, if that was on, you'd be able to see it.
Yeah,
from here pretty close.
That was big.
They're nice. They're really nice.
They're a little bit better than the one we had before.
Little bit. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I just want to point out here with this graph here is that, a lot of times, we talked a little bit about the RFR process. And, the state, all that's flow through monies from the federal government to the state and then the state to us. But for us, it's in reimbursement type situation. So there was a time where correct me if I'm wrong, but we had like $4 million out that we were waiting for reimbursement. So a lot of times people say, well, why do you have such a high cash balance? Well, part of it is
You gotta
for that.
cover that.
You gotta be able to cover it.
Right.
And we don't know when we're gonna get those reimbursements, if it was an efficient system where we got it every month or something like that, that's different.
And when we had the economic meltdown, that thing went from like 100 and I think it was 150 days is what they said they were to 300 days.
Oh, yeah. I believe
And
it.
that was another time when they said, hey, if we don't start seeing some of these come in, we're gonna be in trouble. So
Right. This July, we received our last allocation for transportation. We should have received in June. We didn't get it till the end of July. So that was outstanding. We had RFRs from FY22 outstanding. But as of 9:30, we had received all of the prior year reimbursements. So they
so
did
3
work,
months.
well, some of those a year and 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so this chart is actually on your page, on your table. When I was going through it with Mike today, I said they added that wrong. When I graphed it, it didn't graph the way I thought it graphed. This
Right.
is,
That makes more sense.
this
I looked
makes
at this
more
and I was
sense.
like, really?
You're like,
Less
that
than half?
doesn't, it added the two together instead of showing a portion of one.
Okay.
So salaries compared to the SEG, you can see we actually have stayed pretty consistent. The next chart, if you can go ahead and scroll, does show you actual percentages. So currently in FY24, at the time of me pulling this information, we had several positions open that have not been encumbered to the end of the year. Several employees had left the district, and so when Sonia pays them out, then that frees up their salary and encumbrances. So this, I expect this to be right at the 75%.
Good.
So a rule that is used often is just the rule of 80%. And so what they say is, to stay above 80%, but the closer that you can be to 80, the stronger your budget is. And well, for us, we're below 80, and you can see we have historical data here from FY 18 all the way through 24. We're actually below 80. So the strength of our budget is really, really good.
Well, the problem with getting that over 80 is all of a sudden when you see the kind of numbers we're seeing on maintenance expenses and everything else, the kind of increases on that stuff,
Mhm.
that's what'll drill you. So if you keep it down around that 75, 77%, that's
That'll be good. Yeah. Yeah, under 80 for sure. So I have done some calculations projecting any employees that are paid out of ESSER this year to move them in, and that still keeps us under 80.
good. That's
Then-
what Bill Coker always said too. The superintendent, he says, if that's out of whack, something's wrong. Either you're not doing the maintenance,
That's,
or you don't have enough people.
so that's where I learned the rule of 80 is.
It was probably from him, okay? That's where I first heard it a long time ago.
Oh, okay. This is expenditures per the budget and 11,000 over time. And so, I mean, you could read this several ways. In FY 18, and we were spending almost the entire budget. But if you remember back on this chart with our cash balances, we had a very small cash balance rolling in, $990,000. So we were spending the entire SCG and just rolling over less than $1 million. So we had
Scary.
no leeway to pay summer payroll. And that was one of those issues. And so as we've.
Call it living paycheck to paycheck and the rest of the world.
Right.
I like having that little bit in the bank there.
So of course, FY 24, we're halfway through the year. Salaries are encumbered, but there will be other expenses that are going to be, all of our sports. We pay for a lot of our athletics and all of our student travel in the spring semester that will all be added here, and our substitutes. So in the spring semester, we always have higher costs for substitutes.
What is that?
We have more activities.
Oh, it's teachers leaving to go on activities.
Activities,
Okay. And you're
Yes.
okay.
So that expense is always higher the second semester. Another thing that, again, we've just been talking about this ESSER cliff. We strategically thought about, a lot of our expenditures to prepare for this,
Good.
so that we would have some cash balance moving into next year. So that we would continue some of the software programs that we have, those kinds of things, the salaries that are in ESSER, so that we would have the funds available.
That you'll be glad next year. That's the case.
Okay, so the next page, I'm gonna point.
So the next one is just the projects that we've done. And, as you guys know, we have to do a facilities master plan. And everything that we do with capital improvements have to be on that plan.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we're very intentional about is when we redid the facility master plan, we wanted it to be a true living document of being able to track like all the improvements that we've done in the district. And so that's what this is.
So all the yellow has been completed. All of the orange has either been partially completed or is currently in process. Approved, and we're either getting quotes or, we have already started the work. So as you scroll through, there are a couple of items like vestibules at all of the campuses. As we did the evaluation on the cost of that. At this point, we're not planning to move forward with that. So there are a couple items on here that we may or may not move forward with. But like construct teacherages, well, that's a wish, right? It's not something that we have to have. It doesn't affect necessarily the classroom other than maybe attracting new teachers. So again, we do have this building still to pay for. and have received approval from PED to use some of our cash balance for that. And we'll be making a
I've been
payment.
trying to give them a check and they just won't take
We'll
it.
take it.
Yeah, so
Darn
I
it.
don't know what's up with that.
Maybe they'll donate it for Christmas.
Maybe,
There you go.
You had to come in and assist with this, did a really good job.
yes. Paul Aguilar and Chris Aguilar did
So,
an incredible job.
Is that, are you gonna try and revisit that yearly, or do you revisit that every 3 years, or how are you trying?
When we have to redo it, it's every 5 years, right?
It's every 5 years, but we actually do submit every year.
So any
With
type of
updates.
revision,
Yeah.
like any capital and project that we do, that's not on this, we have to include it on here.
Okay. Mhm.
So it is an updated living document.
Okay. I have a question.
Yes.
What is vestibulus?
Oh.
Vestibule.
Vestibule.
What is that?
We had, oh, go ahead.
So one of the things that we talked about in safety with our schools is you always want to have line of sight to the front door. And so right now we have cameras and that sort of thing, but we really don't have line of sight with the exception of Hatch Elementary. And I think that's it.
Really it.
Yeah, that's the only school that has line of sight to the front door.
The front door.
So this was the vestibule, what we had hoped that we could do is construct a vestibule where they would have line of sight to the front door. The cost is just, it was just too much. We just couldn't make it happen. And so,
Would you relocate the office?
yes, the
there?
front office, yes, or the front office person.
Or the front door to come through either a conference room, like at Rio Grande, there's a conference room there. We talked about making the front door go through that room so that they have a door that is locked and they could, have a window but again, now you lose your conference room. I mean, it's a lot to
The high school
remodel.
would be
High school is the same
really
thing.
hard.
Yeah.
The high school is.
We talked about the same thing, but they would lose their conference room if we did that.
Mhm.
And so it's possible, but it entails a lot. It's not an
But
easy.
you've kind of done it electronically with the
Yep.
cameras and the
Right.
access and. So if you were going to build a new school, you
Do
would
it the right
certainly,
way.
it would be designed that way to have that. there.
Construct a new school. Wow.
Well, and like our schools, when they were built, with the exception of Hatch Elementary, they had that in mind, as far as school safety. We didn't think about safety in those terms back then.
We didn't need it.
We didn't need it, yeah. Columbine kind of changed all that.
Yeah.
And there are some things on here, as I've asked around, they thought, what do they mean by that? So I know we've had some people leave the district and maybe whoever thought this was the idea is not here and didn't inform anyone. And so I would like to meet with the special education department and music, especially elementary art and music, and because spaces for those rooms it's in this plan. So as we did this, color coded it, I thought, oh, okay, now we know where to work. So we've got some things to continue working on here.
I think the extra meetings and stuff we had when we were putting this together were well worth it. So.
Yes, yes.
And again, this 5-year plan.
Hold you
so
accountable.
This is supposed to, hold you
Yeah.
accountable.
Yeah.
And it's really good through 26, but gosh, you can see how much movement we've had.
Yeah.
And we're not even at 26 yet.
That's about all. I stand for questions from the board.
Not a
great.
question, I'm just glad. I know we've had concerns, so we were in the negative, but this proves that we're not, that we've been doing good. I'm really proud of this. We worked it.
Good. So the next report is actually focused on instruction. And as you know, one of the things that we've been trying to do is just improve our instruction, look at, how can we do that? And, it's not an easy ask when you're trying to increase rigor. And we all know that rigor is necessary for our kids to move to the next level. And especially if they're going to meet the standards. And so but it's not as easy as just saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then it happens, right? I mean, there's a lot of different factors. So one of the things that we, as you all know, we brought in Hal Bowman to give us an outside perspective from somebody that's not familiar with our district. I can come in and just share with us what does he see? And so I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Hall because she's the one that walked with him and visited just about every classroom.
Right, thank you. Gonna bring up that little presentation. So just as an introduction to who Hal Bowman is, he's a national speaker. He was a teacher for many years. He was an instructional coach. And so he goes around the country and he goes into classrooms and he is an expert on school culture, but also culture and climate and also instruction. He was a science, he taught almost every subject, K-12. It seems like he, from music to biology to special education, I mean, a variety of things. So what he did was, it was November 13th to 14th, and he came on November 13th. Him and I walked around into it was like 95% of the classrooms. If there was no students in there, we didn't stay, but 95% of the classrooms in all 5 schools in one day. That was something. But it was amazing. It was amazing. So that's how he does his initial walk around. And then the second day, it was a half day training with the principals and really on his findings. And in that, he was with the principals, just him and the principals, to have those conversations. And so let's go to the next slide. Oh, okay. I want to share some great news or good news. He was so impressed with our students. They were so eager to learn. Their engagement, they were on task. Like I said, 95% of the classrooms, we did not see any behavior problems, any off-task behavior. Also, I'm jumping down to the cell phone, but I didn't observe, and he didn't observe any cell phones out. The procedures, he said, were impressive. The fact that teachers had different procedures, but the school itself had their own set of procedures. It would just look different from secondary to elementary. Also, he talked about this trajectory momentum, and he talks about this story with like the camel. If you ever had, there was this game back in the 80s, I think, where you put these little things on a camel and it breaks the camel's back. Well, he says, you're like right there, like just the littlest things, tweaks. So we're on a trajectory. And he said with the small district size and campuses, it's really manageable to, like, he says, break the camel's back in a good way, not in a bad way. Because of the fact that we do have small campuses and ratios with students in our classrooms. He thought that was an amazing thing. So that's the good news. Then he helped us identify some challenges, and this was a really great exercise. I was not in the room with the principals, but we debriefed as a district leadership team. But with the principals, he really debriefed with them, and he told me about this exercise where they really tried to piece out what those challenges were. So our teachers are impacted. I mean, nationally, our teachers are impacted post-COVID. What does that mean? Well, it means that teachers are different from going through that. Kids are different just from going through that. It really hit them. And he says, you know, we have to acknowledge that in order to beat that challenge, you know, out of the box and ask for help. I mean, we all had to jump out of the box in February of 2020 because nobody knew in March, whatever month it was when we closed, but teachers really didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden the computer's there and the kids are there and nobody knows anything and the administrators don't know how to, and it was crazy. So that's part of it, that the teachers are afraid to step out of the box because they already had to do that, really, just like
Didn't work.
it didn't work so well. And then everyone comes back and now, okay, now we have kids that have been through that. And that was for a lot of kids, it was pretty substantial and traumatic, and teachers. So we want to acknowledge that and also support our teachers, of course. Communicating expectations. That's another piece that we're always working on. And how can we truly, he says, small district, you know, we could be on that, we're on the trajectory, but how do we get to that point? But it's about how do we get those expectations clearly to our teachers, and especially when we have a high percentage of new and alternative licensed teachers. So there's yeah.
He's saying that our district had a high percentage
Yeah.
of new evaluation or.
Yeah, yeah, very high. It's a high percentage in relation to what he's seen, sure. About a third of our teachers, almost. So either a new or alternative. and they all have a mentor. So we have about 10 total mentors mentoring our teachers. And so, and those are level 2 and level 3 teachers that are the mentors. And a few principals also mentor ed fellows and things like that. So how do we help them with those expectations? And because they're coming in with such a wealth of knowledge, like we have a math teacher who he is an amazing math whiz. And how do we help him with the teaching part? Because the teaching part, you can know a lot, but when it comes to the teaching and the classroom management, things like that. And so there's a lot of things that the mentors work with them on, and mentors are keeping logs and things like that at each school. They have different procedures. Also, he noticed some deficit mindsets. So when we talk about deficit mindsets is when we're making those conclusions about either I can have a deficit mindset about myself as a teacher and think, oh, I can't teach like that. I can't teach project-based learning. Or kids can have a deficit mindset, or teachers can have a deficit mindset about students. And unfortunately, that does happen sometimes. And so instead, give kids the chance to show what they know and that they can do it, and support them. So keeping that level of rigor and relevance high, so teaching on grade level all the time, and then supporting as the kids are.
But how do you support the teachers as well?
Yeah, so that
In the
goes into the
classroom.
next steps. I'll show
Okay.
you. So what some of the things that we're doing to do that, supporting the teachers through a variety of professional developments through the data days, but also we have on demand, it's not on here because Hal Bowman didn't talk about it. This is what he talked about. But we have on demand professional development through a platform called Alludo. And so actually we just had the representative come last week and talk with us. And it's really about teachers choosing what they need instead of this one size fits all PD, which we've all been through and doesn't always work, because I might not need that. And so we have this platform that we're getting into, and that's helping. And as well, we do those hands-on. So when we come back in January, we have workshop style, kind of conference style, where teachers then can choose, giving teachers a choice. Because if I'm passionate about something, I'm going to want to learn about it. So that's part of the things that we're doing there. And also, like it says on this third bullet, teachers have to, this is Hal Bowman, I'm quoting him, teachers have to see it to be it, so we have to show it to grow it. So he says, demonstrate good teaching in inexperienced teacher classrooms. So offer to go in, and we're talking about principals, we're talking about us, we're talking about, actually Miss Olivia Paez, she's done guest teaching as well. And so social workers, in a way, and Hal Bowman talks about this all the time, everyone in the school district is a teacher. You're teaching the kids something by your actions, your words, and your interactions with them every day. So how can we show teachers, they have to see what that looks like. And then also kids have to see, and I'm going to add that to that, but kids have to see success in order to believe that they can do it. And that's really important. And we do that through higher forms of engagement with students and teachers and learning conversations. We're doing a lot more surveys. We have a panorama system. We're doing a lot more surveys with students about culture, climate, and action. And that's really great. Actually, we're ahead of the game because now the PED is doing surveys through Panorama. And we had Panorama before the PED got it. And so we've been surveying our kids for the last 2 years to look at culture, climate, and instruction. So that's pretty exciting because we're taking those surveys, and I do instructional surveys with the teachers as well. We're taking those surveys and using it to plan professional development, because otherwise it's just whatever I feel like teaching on, but that's not. And we get everyone to do professional development and helping the teachers in what they need. And then more intentional celebrations. We're working with principals to and they're doing a great job of how can you intentionally celebrate, because sometimes they're so busy. I know what it's like to be a principal. You're busy all the time. You have to intentionally put it down. I'm going to celebrate someone today. And so we did a little activity with the principals on that as well. And how can you pick that person you're going to interact with today that you need to build your relationship with that day? And then that lends itself to revisiting teacher mission and purpose. Some of us have forgotten our mission and our purpose. And so we have to focus on the wins, Because if your brain's pretty interesting, when you tell it to focus on something, it's gonna focus on it. So if you tell it to focus on wins, you're gonna focus on wins. Doesn't mean that we don't address challenges, but how can we get that ratio to that? Actually, it's like 4.7, Hal Bowman tells me, 4.7 something to 1. So for every 4.7, for every one challenge, you should have 4.7 celebrations. Figure out to motivate you to get to that next level. And so actually, one last thing I didn't add on the slide, and I totally forgot about it until a few minutes ago. Hal Bowman's going to support our principals with one-on-one coaching through Zoom for the rest of the year. So that's pretty exciting because he threw that in as part of this consult that he was doing with us. But yeah, so it's been really exciting. And when he said that, and he said, I would like to work with your principals one-on-one with them because they have unique challenges at their school. So they can't always talk about it in a group because that won't help. But he's going to do that as well. And he wanted to be a part of our board meeting today, but he's not feeling well. He's very sick like right now. But so that was really exciting. And so thank you for investing in bringing him, and he's a continual partner, just like a lot of our partners are. Yeah.
So, things are not bad, things are different though. They're very different. And, I know for some people, it's hard to understand that, I had somebody tell me, well, COVID was 2 years ago, aren't you over it yet? And the trauma that our students experience, and not all students, but a large number of them, the trauma that they experience was significant, and they're still dealing with that. Staff, same thing. It just, it totally just changed behavior. And so we're working to try to get back to that place. But, and it's not just us, it's not just here in Hatch, all the superintendents that I talk to across the state, they're all saying the same thing, and so we're all working hard to get back to that place pre-COVID, but we're not there yet. So we'll continue to just chip away, but a lot of celebrations as Hal Bowman has pointed out. I think the big one there's two big ones that I was really surprised with is, classroom management. The kids are engaged, and everybody knows that if you don't have classroom management, learning's not going to happen, right? So for our kids to be engaged, that's huge. And he said, overall, that's what's happening. The second is the cell phone. He said, I go across the country and they say, well, how do we deal with cell phones? We can't do that. We can't. He says, oh yeah, you can. I was over in the Hatch Valley, and they've done it, and so kudos to our principals and our staff, with
Kudos
that.
to the
because
teachers who are,
they're different procedures. Each teacher has a different procedure, and it's not 100%. But it's significant. We don't see those same type of issues that we've seen in the past. And so kudos to them when they put that into the staff handbook and the student handbook. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to get a lot of parent complaints. I have not received one.
that's great.
And so that's good. That's
Parents
really.
understand that in school.
Yep. So, all right, moving on down the line here. You all requested update on our COVID cases, and we'll pass this around. Carla did give us this. We did have a spike in COVID cases with students and staff in the months of October and in November. But in the month of December, we have significantly dropped. And so I'll pass that around where you see. The first page is overall for the district. The pages after that are individual schools. So you can see in the month of December, we're down to nothing. Okay. So that's good. The next on the list is the PED rule. There's been a lot of talk about new rules that are coming down from PED. Once again. And so these are significantly going to impact us and all districts, not just us, some more than others. But there's 3 areas that they're pushing, and the hearing will be next Monday in Santa Fe. One is the calendar and so there's a lot of rules changes with the calendar that are coming, which is a little unfortunate in my opinion, because we just had a statute, House Bill, I already forgot, 3, I can't even remember. The House bill that increased our instructional hours from 1080 to 1140, and so here we go again. Now PED is throwing their thing in, and saying that we have to have a minimum of 180 instructional days. So right now we have 172. So if we're going to keep things the same and if we just take this year's calendar and drop it into next year's calendar with the new rules, if they pass, that means our teachers are going to be teaching more days. And so there's a lot of superintendents that are not happy with this. Again, it's another attempt to take away local control
Mhm.
of the school districts. You know, we met the 1140 and in my opinion, it's like, give us time to see if this will work before we make another change. And so we're hoping that on Monday during the hearing that we'll get more information and see where we'll go. I've held off holding any type of calendar committee meetings until we know what the rule is going to be
So
Does
it's,
it need to be implemented this year?
for
Or
next year.
For next year.
Next
so
year.
it's 172 going to change.
Yes.
Well, so okay, so the statute didn't say days, it said hours.
So 1140 divided by whatever we're doing a day.
Yeah.
172.
Right. Right. So we meet the statute. And then they allowed for professional development to be included as part of that instruction time. So that's how we were able to get down to 172,
Hmm.
still meet
So what
the,
are the schools gonna do then? You only have to meet the 1140, they're just gonna shorten the school day and add 8 school days to.
well, yeah, that's one option.
It's gonna happen.
That's one of the options. Yeah.
That's kind of stupid.
So there's several ways to go about that. So I just want to wait until we know what's going to happen as we move forward.
So it's just a proposal.
It's rule. So it's a PED rule. Okay, and so
Proposed rule or
proposed rule, so
Proposed
they'll rule on it and see if it's going to pass. So I want to just kind of remind you, the last time we had kind of a controversial rule from PED was the social studies standards.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so even though we had tons and tons and tons of people in opposition of the new social study standards, PED just pushed it through. Okay. And
I'm
so
gonna start getting emails from all the representatives again, at state representatives.
I hope
complaining
that-
about this
Yeah.
Social studies thing.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. I hope not.
I'm gonna give them these guys.
You guys.
Email these 3.
Forward the email. Forward.
So we don't know exactly what it's going to entail because there's still some gray areas, but that's what it's looking like right now. Because the main piece of that is we have to have 180 instruction days. Okay,
So are they going to do away with the 1140 hours?
No.
Or is that still?
you still have to do 1140.
So that's what districts are gonna do. They're gonna take that 1140 and they're gonna divide it over 180 days instead
Yep.
of
Figure it out.
172. And they're gonna start school later or end it.
Yeah. Right.
So then what about how's that gonna affect all those districts that went to 4-day weeks?
Well,
Nope.
that is where we're going to have the big battle. Okay,
That's gonna.
because they're doing away with the 4-day week.
That's gonna
Right.
cost their district.
Yeah.
a ton of money.
Yes. Yep.
And they said that.
Transportation.
Everybody is up in arms right now. Okay, not going to impact us like that, but every 4-day district. So,
That's a killer.
you know, just in our area, I think you've got Animas.
4 to 5 days, they're gonna go from 4 to 5 days and then add an extra 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's basically what's gonna-
Pretty much, yeah. So you got Animas, you got Lordsburg, you got Cobre, you got Reserve, Magdalena.
What about Cliff? Are they 40?
I don't know about Cliff. I don't know about Cliff. So
Mm.
anyway, so that's, I just want to bring that to your attention. The second piece of the new rule deals with transportation and there's not anything that is going to impact us.
Oh, good.
So that's good. But the third is there is a new accreditation cycle that they're going to be implementing. So more accountability. Okay, and so, you know, it's kind of interesting because the new administrator, the current administration, when they came in, and as you remember, with the former administration, you know, that's what all the hoopla was, you know, all the accountability that was being implemented. So the new governor came in, we did away with accountability, and now we're back. So there's going to be an accreditation process, and we don't know what that's going to look like yet. There's a lot of things that are in the rule that they're already doing. So we don't know if there's going to be some redundancy in paperwork or if, I don't know. Or if they're just going to accept the method. You know, we currently, for accountability, we have, every school has to have a management. And so that's, every school has to go through a designation process. It's last week or last month. And so that's part of the kind of, so that's New Mexico Vistas. And then every district has to submit an ed. All the different programs. So we're already doing a lot of these accountability. So we don't know what else that means as far as the accountability. But they're flexing the muscles and saying that there's going to be more accountability at the classroom, at the school, at the district, and with the school board. Accountability with all those different layers. And so, you know, we'll see what happens with that. Again, we're opposed to that because we just don't know what that's going to look like. And that's kind of, to me, that's kind of scary. They're going to do rule. Let's be very specific.
Wait a minute, they're gonna do a rule. They're gonna have a hearing out on Monday, but they don't even really know what the rule's gonna look like.
Well, they have it out, you know, but implementation of that, what's that going to look like? So, so that's New Mexico. You'll be hearing a lot more about that and the different changes. So,
This is
Our
PG.
teachers have nothing better to do, right?
Right.
Too.
right.
Crazy.
Oh, well, the director will change 6 months anyway, right? I mean, we know that for a fact. That
Well,
happens.
We've been
every
through,
year.
we've been through 6 secretaries
6 Secretary of Eds,
in the last 6 years. So we'll see.
pretty good bet. And we'll go through a 7th next year.
All right, the last piece I have with the reports is special recognition. And there's several things that we want to recognize people, and I'm going to go ahead and start with Eduardo Fernandez and his team. And I want to recognize them, and you know, as we haven't done the Heart of the Bear Award, you know, and so so we want to do that today. We want to recognize Eduardo, Jose, and Ernesto. And let me tell you a little bit about them and why. You know, I get a call on Friday from Eduardo. And he says, hey, Mr. Chavez, hey, I've got to leave the district. We're on our way over to Knott. We got a bus that broke down from Silver City, and we're going to go out there to see what we can help, how we can help. And so, and this is normal. This is just the kind of leader that Eduardo is. You know, however, he can lend a hand, and Jose as well, you know, and so they took off, and they went down there to see what they could do to help. And Ernesto drove down there with another bus, and so we lent them the bus so that they could get to where they. So when you go over to the yard and you see the Silver City or the Cliff High School bus, it's not because we hijacked their bus. It's because they had it towed over here to do that. And so I just want to recognize all 3 of them, because that's going above and beyond.
Absolutely.
They didn't have to do that, but they did it. And that's not the first time that they've done that type of deal where, you know, a bus breaks down and they're there to fix it, you know, or help in any way they can. So if we could recognize the
I remember that one. It's nice. To see. Thank you so much.
All right, the next recognition that we want to do is Merle Hinojosa, who at the School Board Association. she,
Exemplary.
Exemplary award.
Wow.
exemplary is 20 training hours in a year or 25
so.
training hours in a year. It's a lot of training in a 1 year period. Yeah.
Early's been to a lot of trainings this year, so I just want to recognize. The next is the 3 outgoing board members. And just personally, I just want to say thank you for your support. Thank you for, taking a chance on somebody to come in and lead this district. As I stated earlier, I wanted to leave you guys with a good feeling about the state of the district and where we're at. And I hope you're pleased because we've worked very, very hard to get to that point. But thank you, the 3 of you, for your service. And just as our token of appreciation, we have
Oh, wow.
so we have Nambe. Nambe.
Oh, those are nice. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much.
For chili, I said chili.
He said chile rellenos.
Nice.
It's nice. Thank you, Mike.
Very good.
All right, we're almost there.
Almost.
Promise.
Mhm.
I want to switch gears a little bit, still do special recognition, but as you know, today we had burial services for one of our students, Mr. Atticus Ochoa. And so we want to recognize him and let you all know that we did send flowers and on behalf of the school district. Mr. Eduardo Fernandez got his team to go line the road for the procession, the funeral procession with our buses. I think you had like 6 buses out there, right?
8.
8 buses. So thank you for all that. But we did want to just mention him and they had a program on Friday at Garfield. And it was a fundraiser, the performance with the fundraiser, and they gave all the proceeds over to the family. I believe they were able to raise, help me, $3,300.
Wow.
So that's significant. That's the work of the community just coming together and supporting that. There's a couple of other schools that are going to be doing the same thing, holding fundraisers. I think Rio Grande, is that right? And I believe Hatch Elementary will be doing that as well with their programs and their fundraisers and getting the proceeds over to. The next is we want to recognize some people that have passed away and I just want to say my apologies that we haven't done this sooner. It was certainly not intentional, but we want to recognize Mrs. Benny, who passed away a while back. And I've asked Greg to talk a little bit about her.
Yeah. So Mrs. Benny, for many of us, was a very special teacher. Teachers that you'll always remember, and she's the first on my list. Was fortunate to have her for 5 classes in 4 years. She taught physics at the time, and then taught all of our math classes, algebra 2, geometry, and trade calculus was a combined class at that time. But I went to college and I thought, well, I'm going to do just fine. And in some areas I struggled when I went to New Mexico State, but I tell you what, not in math. I walked right in there and was at the top of the class in every math class and went through, college algebra and calculus 1 and calculus 2 with no problems. She had us very well prepared and ready to go. And she was always there. When I'd have a problem in college, I'd call her and say, I run this by you. I'm doing something wrong here. Well, don't you remember? Yeah. Okay. I do remember now. And she was just a special lady for a whole lot of students here for a whole lot of years. Just a fabulous person and an outstanding math teacher.
The next one is Miss Bouvet. And I've asked Lupe to say a few words.
Ms. Bouvet was, I guess, my mentor to coming into the school board. She was, when I started, she's the one who kind of pushed me in. she was, I mean, she was it for the schools, you know, all the kids, she's had lots of, she was a madrina to many kids, right? Many of our kids here. She was just an awesome person, I mean, it was just awesome. She passed in July. Most of her family was involved in the schools too, because of her, you know, she was just an awesome, awesome person.
We will miss them both.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that concludes my report.
Okay, we're gonna move on to number 3, limited public comment. Before I call the people up to speak, I did want to let folks know there were some rumors flying around that the board had intended to extend the superintendent's contract, and that is not our intent. We have moved the evaluation and the contract extension period back to December and January. So whether the contract's extended or not will depend on the board in January. So every 2 years, there could be a change in that board. So what that does is the board that has worked with the superintendent for the whole year evaluates them, which is the way it should be in our opinion. And then the new board will get to determine whether they want to extend that contract or not. Mike's contract is currently got the rest of this school year and 2 years to go.
Correct.
So that gives the new board a chance to work with him for a year or 6 months. I mean, if you determine you want to extend that contract earlier, you could do that. But I would suggest you wait until you've gone through the whole process with them and evaluated them at this meeting next year, and then determine what you all want to do at that time. So I just wanted to put that to rest. If anybody was concerned about that, you don't need to be concerned about that. So we had 2, maybe 3 for public participation. We'll call Ray Gonzalez first. Ray is one of our 3 new board members that will take over in January.
Good evening, board. I'd just like to start by saying thank you guys for all the years of service you've put in for the district, for all your dedication to our students, and for everything that you've done. I know you guys have been here for a long time. You've done a lot of good, positive things for the district. It is appreciated. With that being said, I would just like to say that for those of you that have reached out in the community and those of you that have those concerns, I will be here to support those of you that are looking for something different to help your children. Because ultimately, my position right now is to help improve student outcomes in this district. That is my primary concern. I want to go ahead and clear the air with Mr. Chavez. Mr. Chavez, I will be working with you fairly. I have no problems working with you whatsoever. I want our relationship to be positive based on student outcomes and what is best for the children in this community. So thank you all again. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Jennifer Russell wanted to speak on attendance policy.
Good evening. I wanted to say thank you guys as well. You guys have done a lot for our kids and I appreciate it as a mom and as a teacher, but especially. November, we had looked at the attendance and Vicente talked about that the board could come up with a new policy. I wanted to make sure as the board is transitioning, that's still on the forefront, because in talking with my colleagues, attendance is at the top of our list of things that we need to tackle it. And so we went to the community event up in Albuquerque this last Friday, and it's not just us. It was at the top of everybody's list. So I would like to see us continue to look at, I don't know if you guys have already started talking about what that new policy would look like. I just want to make sure it hasn't been talked about and forgotten, and reach out and say if you guys need anything at the school level, if you want somebody to gather data or talk to people, reach out, make phone calls. I'm here. Please let me know what I can do to help with that. Because it is already December, which means that we're going to blink twice and the school year is going to be over. We need a new policy so that we can print those handbooks. Okay. And that's it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
That on items for the next meeting as well. And then, Richard, did you want to say a word too? Okay, all right, so that's public input. Thank you all, and thank you for your kind comments. For approval financials, consider approval of November bills. I had a few questions, but Sheila, you emailed me back on all those, so. So that's a thing that we do too. You're gonna get a copy of all the expenditures, like we have last month's expenditures this month to go through and look at them and you'll ask a lot of questions to start with. Then after you've been there a year or two, you'll recognize a lot of those and know what those are, but don't be afraid to ask questions on anything. I mean, I had one this time. I said, why do we spend $128 on a 12 pack of D batteries? Well, because we bought like 40 12 packs of D batteries for that price. Okay, that makes sense. So. You bet. Usually it's the Friday before the meeting. So what I try to do is if Friday evening before I leave work, I'll try to sit down and go through it quickly and look at it. And then I've got kind of the weekend to think about some of the stuff that's in there. And then usually either Sunday or Monday, I'll email Sheila with questions or anything else. And you'll talk about the agenda, Mike, at any time that a board member wants something put on the agenda. The correct procedure has been come to the board president to ask that to get on the agenda. I didn't do that. I told everybody, if you want something on the agenda, call Mike and tell him to put it on the agenda. I don't see why you need to ask me to go ask Mike to put it on there. Once you reorganize the new board at your first meeting, you'll need to figure out how you all want to do that. So it's been easy for me just to tell them, if you want something on the agenda, it's not like I'm going to say, oh no, we shouldn't put that on the agenda. Let's get it on the agenda. So.
And me on the bills, I just never have time to email her and ask questions, so I ask them here. And they always have the answer for us here.
Yep. I would, either way you do it,
Easier.
send them
Yeah.
in, ask them here, whatever. And then it's funny, a lot of times I'll answer the question because Lupe asked the question. Oh, that happens to be the one that I asked.
The one you asked.
So stand for questions.
Did you have any?
I do not.
I had one on page 7. You had HVAC. And then you had, for 23,000.
Oh, the roof care.
Yes. Which school was that one? Do I remember?
That's district wide. That's the
Okay.
smart care where they're going through all the HVAC units.
And
twice a
then you
year.
have right here, the architectural services as well. What was that one? For the
This
11th
same
last one.
page?
Last one. on that
Last
page.
one on that page.
That is for the band building remodel.
Okay.
So are the roofs pretty much done? Are they still working on them or what's the plan?
We need to call it the special ed building or something
It's
now. It's
the-
not the band building anymore.
Student Services and Training Center.
What is it called?
Special service.
Student Services.
Student Services and Training Center. Okay.
Well,
I'm still gonna call it the band room, sorry.
Thank
Let
you.
me just share a
home ec.
funny story. We got called from the high school because they got all this carpet tile, right? Because it said delivered to the band room.
goodness.
High school band.
Oh,
Yeah.
Band
no.
room.
Gonna put it on the walls, huh?
Well, yeah, and that's why Sheila, so we can't keep calling it the band room. Because
Right.
everything's gonna go over to the high school.
It's repurposed. We need to rename it. It's no longer the band and home ec building. So,
Darn it.
Hey Sheila, I have a question on page 2 on the field house, the remodel. Are we done? Is that it? The 11,000?
No.
That would be nice.
It'd be nice if it was only 11,000.
This is
How much more?
architectural services.
Number 2.
We did get preliminary drawings today or yesterday. Yesterday, we've scheduled a meeting on Monday, I believe, or Tuesday afternoon. So we'll meet with high school staff and athletic staff and meet with the architect about his.
Nice.
Hopefully it'll be done before next season.
Yes.
You think?
Lord willing.
Is that the plan?
Well,
I thought we already saw the architectural drawing at
we
the,
We did.
we
did.
did, but it's the
The
detail.
full
okay,
plans.
that was just a mock-up. Okay.
We're ready to go get a bid. I mean, he had a few questions so that we can work with the contractor.
But yes, that's our hope, is to have it ready before football season.
Yes.
Good.
That'd be nice.
That's that one.
That was it for me.
That was it for me.
Okay, I had 4 and they were all answered, so One of them was who's Harold Bowman? Told me that. earlier. Is there a motion to approve the November expenditures?
Second.
Motion by Vice President Garai, second by Member Castillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries. 4B, consider approval of budget adjustments, request, transfers, cash request. And we try to lump this all together. My early years on the board, there weren't near as many at that time, but we used to vote individually on each one and stand for questions on each one. So that's another reason why we require this packet to come to you the week before, because all of that detail on these is in there. So if I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, there's these 4 things were moved over to here for this. So then if I have any questions, I call Sheila on those questions. So you guys have, 2 of you have seen some of that type of stuff already. So you'll be more familiar with it when I was, but we usually approve it all together, or if there's something that's a question, we'll pull that out from the approval. So yeah.
Okay.
Sheila, take it away for us.
A lot of adjustments for benefits, same every month. We have to code every single benefit per every single job class separately. So if somebody picks up additional insurance, they have a baby, their insurance goes up. Well, all of that's budgeted down to the person. A lot of the funds, I can tell you who that is. And so almost every job in this district has a budget. And so a lot of times if I budgeted for regular education teachers for health insurance, but more sped teachers picked up health insurance, then I have to move it from the function to the next function and job class to the next job class. So a lot of this is that. So the first operational is benefits. 14,000, that is on your packet as a decrease bar for $1. We had a permanent cash transfer, but PED didn't process it in time, so it rolled a $1 budget for us this year, but it's irrelevant. It doesn't exist. So 21,000, we have a new manager for the SFE. His name is Mike Lozano. And he actually came and talked to me about some of the repairs they need to do on refrigeration.
He's a manager for what?
SFE, the Southwest
Oh,
Food
okay.
Service. And so that was nice that he was familiar with the budget, and so there's an increase for that. Again, health insurance premiums, we've got in 13,000. I've already spoke to Eduardo about this. We have a portion of a pre-K driver that will be coming out of transportation due to the funding in pre-K. So it doesn't quite cover a full employee. So there's an increase on some of these benefits.
But that's just stunning to me that how many adjustments are tied to that one change because of all the different
Yes,
accounts.
yes. And so again, to put money into those accounts, I have to take it from anywhere there is extra money. So we over budgeted by $30 on dental insurance for health or bus assistance, $30 for bus driver dental. So
$35 for vision, and yeah, I see.
so it's just anything, I mean, I kind of overestimate because I'm not sure where we're gonna land. But then as we try to spend down the funds, and with transportation, if we have a cash balance, we have to return 50% of it, of the cash balance. So we're to zero every year, but that's why sometimes it is minutia. I mean, we're down to dollars trying to move the last dollar to spend it down. So the next page, on page 3, you do literally have dollars to cover retirement and for EAs and the after-school program at the high school, our Saturday school. So we had to increase the benefits for that. Dental insurance, health insurance, on 24160. In all previous years, we have had indirect costs. They have now decided that is unallowable, which means I need to transfer that into a fund where we can use it. So up to 1,000 from 2,300. And so there's 2 for 24160. I tried to print this so that it took less pages, but then that kind of makes it out of order. So you can tell me how you want it next year. Perkins, 24174, $300 change for equipment, for FFA, actually, this is for FFA. And then again, we have increase for sanitation supplies. Some of the schools called me recently and asked for wipes. And so I'm increasing the budget so that they could purchase wipes for their classrooms and sanitizer. More benefits. And Science Olympiad, additional compensation. We met with principals about stipends for some staff, and that's out of our spaceport money. We're gonna again adjust benefits on the next page. Maintenance repair SB9, we're just moving the balance on a couple of accounts up to maintenance and repair so we can spend that down. Pre-K. PED told Mr. Mesa to code a new position as a regular EA. So we did. That means 1711. And then we submitted our R and FAR and they said, you can't have 1711, you have to have 1714. I'm
Oh,
like,
I
that's
see
not
that.
what regular EA is. So in pre-K, a regular EA is 1714. So I had to move from one to the other. 31701 is again SB9, just what was left in one to spend down to zero. We had not spent supplies and materials, so we're moving that up to maintenance and repair. And then increase bar, we have a check here on the wall. The Dollar General has graciously donated $5,000 to the district. And so that needs to be board approved. And yes, thank you, Dollar General. And Mike was so wonderful to work with. And so each school received budgeted for $1,000 to purchase books for their schools.
Does that need to be an action item, Sheila? Does that need to be an action item to?
It is, it's on the,
Okay, it's
yeah, it's
next.
for approval.
Oh, it's on the bar.
Yes, it's a bar.
Increase bar.
And then there's that unallowable transfer bar. The next page is the decrease to the projected carryover that we talked about before. So some of the items did come in at midnight on the last day, right? Literally noon on June 30th, and Rainey had held on to that check run. We were hoping and crossing our fingers, and Bobby's team called us and said, it's here, and this is here. And they call again and say, something else just showed up. So that's what this is about. So a lot of projected carryover that we did spend down in the prior year. Idea B, they added it to our application and made us budget it. And we told them we already spent it. And they said, well, it's already in the application. And so I did not put that budget in iVisions at the beginning of the year because I knew it wasn't there. And so now I'm just asking to submit that. So as these letters are arriving, we would like to submit those bars. So. Any questions?
How do you do it?
Yes.
Just a bazillion little, I mean, the $1 adjustments, and I'm glad you're on top of it and keep us at zero. Is there a motion to approve the budget adjustments, request transfers, and cash requests as presented?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Vice President Grice, second by Member Hinojosa. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I'm sure we sent some type of a nice thank you to Dollar General, Mike.
Yes. You know what? I believe we did, but let me.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank them on behalf of the board, please.
absolutely.
Very generous. Items for future meetings. So board policy attendance.
No, we're still.
Oh, did I missed the new business.
Skip this.
Consider approval of relocating portable buildings. Mike, what can you tell us? You told me which buildings it
So,
is.
As you know, we have this piece of property over here for sale. And, but in that price, bless you, it does not include the portable buildings that are out there. And so one of the things that we were looking to do is, okay, what can we do to repurpose these buildings? Like we've done so many others. And so we sat down, we visited with staff. One of the things that we'd like to do with one of the portables is to place it over by the ball fields, baseball and softball fields. As you know, when teams come over, whether it's soccer, or whether it's softball or baseball, teams don't have a place to dress out if they need to dress. And so they'll go over to the concession, the restrooms in the concession stand. But we'd like to be able to give them something to be able to go to. And so we'd like to repurpose one of those for that purpose over at the baseball field and softball fields to be used by our teams and the visiting teams. Okay, I think that sometimes the visiting teams also use like the main building. And so sometimes, we have to let them in, and so it's just a big hassle sometimes. So that's one area. The other area that we'd like to do is Alicia Trujillo came to us and said, our daycare is, we're kind of outgrowing it.
Wow.
And which is a good thing, because we've got so many of our staff that have their kids there. So we were trying to think about, okay, how could we use one of those buildings to either expand the childcare center or maybe do an expansion within the building itself, the main building, and have classrooms outside. So we're still kind of in the process of looking at that and seeing what that would take. Alicia did have somebody come look at the structure to see what it would take. And I think met with Vicente also, and Vicente let us know that to use one of those portables for a daycare center, we'd actually have to have a fire suppression system,
Yeah, I don't
which
think,
is going to be very cost ineffective. So we kind of are starting to look at Plan B
Mhm.
and see if we can just expand into the main building and then have the portable out there for Alicia's elective classes. So that she could still have classes. And so that would afford us two classrooms to be able to do that. And so we're looking at the possibility of that, but that's what this is this proposal that was sent in, the cost to move those buildings and get them hooked up with utilities. So of course they need
plumbing,
water,
electric, yeah.
plumbing, water, electric, sewer. Because each one of those buildings have bathrooms.
Mhm.
So it's a little costly. It's a little bit more than we had anticipated, but we feel like it's a good use of those buildings. And it meets the needs of, and it's one of the holes that we have, one of the gaps that we have, that we can utilize them. Repurpose them.
So where will this money come from?
I don't know, money person?
Money person?
We've discussed this. So that cash balance that we've been working on, it is allowable to use for instructional purposes, and also operational can cover athletic expenses. So
So you're doing 1-to-1, so you kind of split that bill up.
yeah, so we can use potentially a bond, of course, and I would suggest carryover at this point in our cash balance.
How much is it gonna cost just to move them?
To move them out of the way so you can sell the property.
$462,000.
Yeah, so to move them and hook them up is what we're looking at. The cost of the building moval, I don't see that that's actually listed separately.
Yeah, I don't see it.
It's
Yeah,
$462,000 plus tax.
There's the relocation there.
yeah.
So,
And
and
it's
where
just right
did
there,
these
right
folks
there.
come from,
It's not that
Mike?
This is
But that's
Bohannon and
connected.
Houston. They're
This is completely
That's where the village
connected.
is, right?
Yes,
Yes,
Bohannon and Houston, this is the engineer.
Mhm.
And so this is not a proposal from a contractor to do the work.
Oh,
This
okay.
is a projection.
This is what they think it's gonna cost.
Yes.
Okay. It's not a bid.
Kids or what?
And then,
So
what were the other two things from the Gadsden school that were in here? Just kind of, is that where they got that from?
yes, I think it's
Oh,
just so you can see what.
That's what
actually
it
is.
cost Gadsden to
right.
move
They did
those
this
two.
work
So-
over at Gadsden, and
Okay.
it was just a comparison to.
And that's about $290,000 per building, depending on the building unit. So that's where they came up with the 580. Okay.
And again, it's steep. However, that's a lot cheaper than new building, new construction.
Yeah.
Yes.
And faster.
And faster, yes.
Mhm.
Well, let's look at it. We don't have a bid for it yet. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So what do you need from us on that, Mike?
Well, would you like us to continue going down this road?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Figure out what it's gonna cost.
Okay.
For sure. For B, consider approval of application site use agreement for the Christmas light parade.
Oh, that was, yeah, that was the other day.
That
Yeah.
was-
Approved.
It's already been there, done.
Done. I even
So-
bought a shirt.
I vote no.
Did you? Where did you get the shirt from?
All in favor?
You vote no.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. 5C, consider approval of additional legal counsel.
So,
All right.
that's not in your packet.
Oh.
That is a separate, I put it on your.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that I discovered and also in talking with other superintendents around the state, there's different legal services that different districts tap into. And so, as you know, our legal counsel with the Cuddy Group represents the school board. And so sometimes districts have a separate legal counsel for day-to-day activities. And as you all remember, and I know you've even before I arrived, there's times where the Cuddy Group will represent the school board, and then there'll be a different counsel to represent the superintendent when you have personnel issues and things like that.
Yeah, and that's created a problem for us a couple of times because the lady that we've used in the past was I can't remember her name, Carol. And so her law firm then couldn't wanted her to represent the administration in the termination hearing that we had 3 or 4 years ago, but they can't do both. So
Yeah, so they actually went out to another firm.
Carol Helms,
Carol
I
Helms.
can't remember her name.
So this is nothing to do with not being satisfied with the legal counsel that we've received.
Mhm.
As you know, Cuddy Group and Carol Helms have just been incredible, and they've done an exceptional job. But there are times where we need additional legal counsel, and that's also true of different like programs. So, for example, SPED. You know, a lot of times SPED needs legal counsel because of just the issues that they deal with. As you know, with the approval of bonds, you know, there's a different firm that we work with the approval of the bonds. And so this just gives us more flexibility to be able to do that. I did reach out to Walsh Gallegos. And as you know, Walsh Gallegos is, they do a lot of work already with the REC and with the SPED. And so we tap in for their services for SPED through the REC. But this will just give us another avenue to pursue. There's 2 different options, and I did reach out to Roxy, as you all know, and to see what they could do for us. And so they're giving us 2 options. One is legal services retainer agreement, where we pay $1,000 a year, and that affords us certain benefits that are detailed in the second page in the second packet. The other is just a which we get charged by the hour. And so you can see $225 per hour. That's pretty standard. It's pretty standard for a lawyer.
But that's really cheap on retainer.
The retainer, it's very cheap. Yes. Yes, because if you look at the other page, you get to see exactly what you get. And so for $1,000 for the retainer fee, we get a telephone consultation, which is what we always get, you know, with school officials. So I think she said, other districts, they usually. But if they have to do like special research, opinion letters, office visits, attend board meetings, so the hourly rate is still the same, but you're afforded a lot more services like telephone calls with that $1,000 retainer. We don't go with that option, we go with the non-retainer, then we just get billed a straight $200 whenever we get to tap into it.
Right, and that call, when they answer the phone, that's an hour.
It's, I think it's done by tenths or something. I'm not sure how they figure that. Yeah.
Hello?
Take-
Vic, that was an hour.
Well, as soon as they pick up the phone, that
Hello.
that timer's going, right? So, oh, here it is. It says, member clients, under the telephone consulate, under option one. Most districts get about 11.33 hours in the phone consultation. So that's a lot of hours. I I don't know how much we use Carol, but I would say that it's probably a lot.
Yeah, it just is pretty. Administration needs to have a separate attorney to the board, because in the termination hearing, the board. The administration presents a case, the ex-employee presents a case, and the board kind of has to be the judge and jury on that. So it's really important that the administration is represented by a separate attorney. And see doing this, and this firm is excellent. They give a lot of the classes of the training that you guys went to. Walsh Guy is always there. I like the cutting group as well. I don't know that, I don't know, maybe I want to trade. Maybe we want Roxy and we give you Carol, but
Well, maybe.
but they're both really good. So
And, doing this, so that we don't have to go out. So as a board, you can determine a rate not surpass with a certain. Up to. That's want to say, yeah, we're gonna go this way. See, but there's, like I said, we did the retainer one, and that's a lot of consultation that you get. It's $1,000, right?
well, if you have a discharge hearing, it's going to eat up the money pretty quick, because that's a lot of hours. They do a lot of work.
30,000.
Well, we have to say,
High-end.
we have to say
You have to
under
say
6,
close
we have to say
1,000.
it because of procurement.
Okay,
Yeah.
but where are we at as far as what would be fair?
Spend it.
Everything. Yeah,
Split the difference.
right there, right? 40?
It's going to run what's going to run. In most years, it's going to run $2,000 probably. If you have a hearing discharge, it's going to run on the upper end of that right away.
Well,
So,
when we had that discharge hearing a couple years back, I think in the end, it probably costs about $10,000.
no, not that much then.
So we currently have a PO for 40,000 and have paid to date 11,500.
On the board's attorney.
Yes.
For the cutting.
So 45.
Yeah, I don't think it would
Yeah.
exceed. I don't,
Okay.
probably wouldn't even get close to that. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I would be looking for a motion to consider approval of additional legal counsel to represent the district and the administration. Using Walsh Gallegos in an amount not to exceed $45,000 a year.
So moved.
All in favor?
I,
Are there any opposed? Okay. NTE not to exceed. I'll be shocked if you use that. If you had
Pray that we don't.
3 discharge hearings or something maybe, but I think we've had 3 in 15 years.
It doesn't happen very.
Okay, what else on items for future meetings? Am I okay for that now?
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
I would like to know how many kids left before school was out, and how many did not come back when school came back in.
In January, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
And they only.
because we should be back. Oh, when's our next meeting?
The
It's on
13th.
January 10th.
And when do we come back?
The 8th.
8th.
So there'll only be,
So
That's only 2 days.
that's only 2 days. Would you have information?
we could,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, for
It
the
won't-
first 2 days, yes.
But yeah, but then what if they go past that? Because
It's always been.
Traditionally, you don't come back till after the Dia de los Santos Reyes, which is the 6th. So they won't come back till the 8th.
And that's why we extended our time just for that.
Those are the days that are gonna disappear under that new PED
Yep.
plan,
Yeah.
like,
It
Yeah.
could
that's
very
gonna
well.
be terrible.
But see, that's the thing is, I would like to know what the count is.
Before and after.
Before. Yeah,
We were looking at 80-day data yesterday, and we are already down a few at most schools since 80-day, which was December 1st.
so,
So we-
and, I guess, I don't know who the question is for then. Are they taking homework with them, or are they just say goodbye?
In some cases, yes.
What are you thinking,
In other
Brandy? Brandy's
cases-
making faces. over there. Tell me, Brandy.
So what you're requesting is the attendance for January 8th, 9th, and 10th to be
Right.
presented at the.
Okay.
board meeting.
Like now,
Like how many
before,
people left
week
before
be-
vacation time?
before Christmas and after the new year.
Okay.
But I want your thoughts.
Come here, tell us, Brandy.
It's on,
It's
right?
on.
Yeah.
So at the high school, we've had a firm stance this year on, we are not giving finals till the 18th and 19th. And we have had a few leave, so we have a meeting with them and they sign an understanding that if their child doesn't take the final, they will receive a 50. And we talk about how that affects their credit and that sort of thing. So it's kept some of our kids here,
Okay.
which is really good. But had a lot of traffic in the office this past week or past 2 weeks requesting to leave, and our stance is they'll miss their final. So we're not giving finals till Monday and Tuesday.
Good.
So
Good.
hopefully that helps.
I hope so, Brandy. I
But
hope
we'll see.
so. I hope so.
I know several of our principals have reported to me that they're having those parent meetings. But it's one of those, it's catch-22, right?
Right.
Because we can tell them, we can talk to them about the importance of staying here, and being in school. But ultimately, if they decide to leave, they decide to leave. So one of the things that we are doing is if it's a 10-day, if they're gone for 10 days consecutively, then we are dropping them. So when they come back, they'll have to leave. It's it's catch-22 because it impacts our attendance, but it also impacts our enrollment.
Monday.
Exactly.
Based on-
So it's 10 days, say they leave today. And school is not when. If they don't come back.
It has to be 10 consecutive days.
Yeah, I think we should have one. I think we'd go to that meeting on Monday and say, you guys got it wrong. We're not going
No idea.
172, 180, we're going to 160.
Could go to school in July.
Work hard, play hard. Come in, work hard, do your school stuff.
It's hard. There's so many things. It's tough, there's so many, when it comes to the calendar, unless you've been involved in the calendar development, you don't really understand like all the different factors. And we try to do the best we can, but it's always here in our community, here, well, so-and-so district does this or so-and-so district does this. But, our community is a little bit different. We're an agricultural community. And we're very different. And so it's trying to find a balance between staff wants, what parents want, what kids want, and trying to find some medium so that, you're not going to please everyone, but you try to do what's best for everybody. And then those are the things that we think. Yes, it's always fun.
So attendance report, number one, number two, board policy on attendance. Starting
So
with
I
our
want
current
to just,
policy.
if I may just address it then, Jennifer. So it's not necessarily policy as much as it is procedure. So just like what we operate under, there's statute and then there's rule. Okay, and so those are the governance. So it's the same thing with us. We have policy and procedure. So what you're talking about with the handbook, that's all procedure. The policy has to stay
Policies the rule.
Yeah.
What?
It's big, you know, it has to say kind of general. You know, and so we could look at policy and see if there's anything within the policy that we need to tweak. But I think what you're after is a little more, like what goes onto the student handbook and the procedures that go into that. Right, right.
And you do need to get started on that because it takes time. And it just,
Yeah.
we meet once a month and you want to have it done by next school year.
Any other items? Anything you guys want to see on the agenda that we can put on here, 3 board members for the next board meeting? Report on the house system. Report on the house system and costs. Cumbered.
See how they're doing, but overall in school, the performance data.
Okay, so up to date.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes,
Um,
most definitely.
what year are you referring to? All years? Okay, and again, all of the house system has been paid out of federal funds and it was specifically in the application and approved. So I just want to clarify that it's not operational, that's paid for this.
Correct. Different. It's one of those 127 buckets of.
Like, that day.
Remember, it's a snapshot. So, but yes, you know, that is our, where we keep all of our information. It is in our school. Right.
Yeah.
But it's still the same.
So
thing.
iVisions recently has created one, but we are under contract. And so, I mean, we're planning to look at the iVisions module once it's time to renew, but
So it'd be the same thing, just different software company.
different
platform.
software.
Okay, well, there, got
Do you have anything?
We stopped that somewhere between 1984 and now, I guess.
Just to do that.
But you're saying the pledge of allegiance in the classroom?
Yes.
Is that illegal?
Oh, yeah.
They do.
Correct.
I do know,
I think the majority of our schools do the Pledge of Allegiance and then also the salute to the New Mexico flag.
New Mexico.
yeah, because I know from Esteban that they do it every morning, but there's a few students that refuse to sit up, to stand up. So,
Okay.
but they do it at the high school.
Fortunate.
Well, we've got several principals. D,
Yes, sir, every morning in English and Spanish, we have our student council who leads that every morning, about 8:05.
And for the New Mexico flag too, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Ms. Perry,
We do both.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. we do.
Brandy,
We do the pledge,
Mhm.
and we talked about starting.
Okay.
Mhm.
and I don't know, I don't think we have,
I
I know Donna, you're at Hatch Elementary.
Amy has two students lead it,
Mhm.
and she does the loudspeaker, and if we stop with it, we won't.
They better stop
In
what
English,
they're doing.
Spanish, and for both sides.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Glad to hear it.
It's getting done.
I didn't know we weren't doing it. I knew we did it in 1984.
Right. It still happens.
Good. All right. Anything else? All right, we,
Yeah, that's would be you guys, yeah. We can do that. Put it on the. And I know we're bringing up things right now, but if there's something that you think of later on, you can just call Elsa or Mike and they can add it on.
Yeah.
Let me send you up. Yeah.
So-
Forward those emails, 'cause we get a
so
lot of
that-
emails.
that will be one of
Lots.
your first orders of business actually at the next meeting. So Elba, you are the vice president for currently, so you will need to start off the next meeting
Yep.
by leading it. And then your first order of business will probably be the reorganization or the vote for the board officers. And then that person will need to lead the meeting. Whoever's voting as president. So that should be the first thing on the agenda for the next meeting. And that's generally done at that meeting. You can do it every year, but I think we just put it on there to do it every other year, right? Every election.
Yeah.
But at any time, if three members decide they want a reorganize the board, you can call for a reorganization of the board and do that. So,
And then you'll also need 2 members for the Doñana County board.
yeah.
Just not 2 of you.
So,
Yes,
so
2 members, so 1.
So 2 members of each school board in the county, so Gadsden, Las Cruces and Hatch make up the advisory board for the Doñana Community College. And they meet 4 times a year,
4 times.
4 times a year. So you'll need to determine who's going to do that. And it's sometimes it's in Las Cruces, sometimes it's in Gadsden.
The majority is in, the majority is at the Doñana.
Every now and then you need a 3rd one to vote, right? Every now and then, not always.
One,
You do need
every
to.
year when they do their budget meeting, so you have to have a quorum of each board, so it has to be 3 members from each one, so.
There's also special committees, the audit. committee.
We
Yeah.
also have not.
And probably ought to just put all that on the agenda for the next meeting, try and get it all whacked out at one time rather than waiting until
Yeah.
We need
community
it.
college meeting comes up. All right, wonderful. So is there a motion to go in executive session?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Grice, second by Member Hinojosa, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the board will go into executive session in accordance with section 10:15(1) to 10:15(4). NMSA 1978 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss personnel matters related to the superintendent's evaluation and contract. No action will be taken until the board returns to open session. And this is probably going to take us about 45 minutes to an hour, I would say, because it's a pretty lengthy evaluation. And you all are welcome to wait.
Judy, thank you so much. I know. But you let me know.
Sure, yes, Richard. Actually, let me just put it in my phone. It'd be the easiest thing to do. What is it?
I just moved it.
6445185. Okay, got it. Thank you, Richard.
Sir?
I will send you a text tonight. And sign it so you know it's from me, and then you'll have my number.
That's who I am, right?
Yep.
Yes.